Hey everybody, thank you for buying Banking Plus, and if you haven't, make sure to stick around for this video to see what kind of features are inside of the Banking Plus economy system. Now, the main purpose of this video is to serve as a guide to show you how to install Banking Plus and some of the cool features it has and stuff you can use it for. So let's start with the actual installation process. How do we go about installing Banking Plus into our Roblox game? Well, in this place here, I have an empty base plate, and I'll show you guys how to start just from scratch. Now, this is assuming that you've already purchased the product and have downloaded the file. What we'll do is we'll go over to Server Script Service, right-click Server Script Service. You'll get this like little window here, and you're going to select Insert from File. Now, once you've done that, you're just going to click where your file is at, bankingplus 1.0.rbxm, and you'll click Open. And that's going to insert these three folders into Server Script Service. Now what we'll need to do is move these into the services that they're supposed to be inside. So ATMs, we're going to move to Workspace, and Banking Plus Client, we're going to move to Replicated Storage. Then we'll leave Banking Plus here in Server Script Service. And that's about it. So now Banking Plus is inside of your game, and once you hit play, it's going to set up the data store as well as the leaderboards and all the starting features that you need. So now that we have Banking Plus installed in our game, I'll show you guys how to get some ATMs set up to work with its interface. What we'll do is open up Banking Plus Client, and there's an Assets page here. Inside of the Assets folder, we have Model and UI. UI is where the GUI is stored, but we're going to go to Models. You have a hitbox and the free complimentary ATM model that comes with Banking Plus. So we're going to start by pulling both of these out and putting them into the workspace. And let me drag them over. They are over here. And we'll just make these copies. I'm going to duplicate them and keep them inside models here. Now this is the actual ATM model, but what I've also included is a hitbox. This hitbox is what actually lets you access the interface. And so if you wanted to make your own ATMs, or you wanted to have, let's say, an NPC, go to Rig Builder and make a block avatar. What you could do is move the hitbox over to the NPC, and they now work as an ATM. Now, the hitboxes have to be inside of this ATMs folder. Because if you open these up, you see there's no scripts in here. These are just invisible parts with some proximity prompts. But you can also go in and customize these proximity prompts. So let's say for this one, I'll change the object text to ATM. And for this one, we'll change the object text to bank teller. Now, once these are inside of the ATMs folder, all you have to do is test. You can see I now have a wallet, and both of these function as ATMs. Now we have the UI that's opened, and we have all of our options here with deposit, withdrawal, and our transaction log. Now, that's pretty much it for getting the ATM set up. And the cool part is, any purchase or transaction that we make, let's say I have 500 in my bank account, let's say I get some quick cash, you see now I have 200 in my wallet and 400, we can go to our transaction log, and this is recorded with the date and the action that happened. We lost $100 from our bank account and moved it to our wallet. We can see that the bank teller, our NPC over here, works the same too. So now that we have functioning ATMs, now all we have to do is configure Banking Plus to work with how we want it to work in our game. Which to do that, we're going to go to Server Script Service, go to the Banking Plus file folder, and open up this settings module script. And this is all of the settings for Banking Plus. So we'll start with the top. Save tries is if the data store fails to save, this is how many times it's going to try before it gives up. If you don't know how data stores work, just leave this at 3. Only whole numbers basically dictates how the currency is going to work inside of your game. So for instance, if this is set to true and we get paid $5.65, we're going to receive $6 into our bank account because it's going to round this into a whole number. So just 6 instead of 6.65 or 5.65. Let's say this is $5.25. It's going to round it to $5 whole instead of $5.25. Now, if we set this to false, it will allow us to have non-whole numbers. So then we have our starting currency. Starting wallet is how much players start with in their wallet. We could set this to 0, and they only have stuff in their bank account, or we can give them a larger amount of starting money, but you can customize this to whatever you want. The starting balance is how much money they start with in their bank account. So it's the same as the starting wallet, it's just for the bank account. Now, these two are interesting. We have don't display and create leader stats. Now, if I set don't display to true, it's going to completely disable the leaderboard. It's not going to try to create values for the wallet, the balance, or the total balance. Now, let's say I want this displayed on a leaderboard. So I'll set this to false. But I have another script in my game that creates the leader stats folder already. Then we can just set this to false, and it's going to yield until it detects your leader stats being created before making those values for the leaderboard. But I'm going to go ahead and leave this untrue. Now, the leader stats display, this is a table that's going to have our values. We have our wallet, our balance, and our total balance. Wallet is how much money players are carrying in their wallet. Balance is how much they have in their bank account. Total balance is how much money they have total. So what's in their wallet and what's in their balance. Now what we have here is whether or not it's going to display. I have these two set to false. If I wanted these on the leaderboard, I'd set them to true. See, now I have 3 values for my money, my balance, and my wallet. Then what we have next to them is display text. So these aren't important to how Banking Plus works. These values are. If I change total balance to anything else, the system's going to error. But I can change its display name to anything, and it's not going to cause any issues. So for instance, I can change this to pocket. We can have this as bank account. And here we can call this credits. These are just the display terms. For instance, if we want to have one value called credits and not display their wallet or their bank account, we can set both of those to false and simply just have our credits here. We'll leave these all on false though and just keep the wallet displayed. Then lastly, we have the security code. So these are the legit income sources. This is used for the transaction log, and it's also used for security. So for instance, default, there's just balance and wallet. Now, in a minute, I'll show you guys how you can set it up so that players can earn money in your game, and basically how you would configure this part. So we're going to leave this alone for the time being. But that's about it for the change and creation of Banking Plus. One of the big things though is when you're scripting, we have the leader stats values, but these aren't really all that important. So these are just for the leaderboard. For instance, let's say I were to make a little GUI down here that kept track of how much money our players had. You wouldn't be trying to read their leader stats value. What's really displayed and stored for the client to read is custom attributes in their player file. So see down here, we have their wallet, their total balance, and their account ID. So if you have a small GUI down here, this is how you would display their stats, and this is what the ATM uses. So you can remove their leader stats and not have to worry about any client-side code not working, as they all read it off of these attributes. So this is reading my primary balance from here, my wallet from down here, and the total balance isn't being displayed, but the name is coming from the account ID. So now let's get into another Roblox place, and I'll show you guys how to set it up so that players can get paid while using Banking Plus. So we're in a place now with Banking Plus installed, and I'll show you guys how to be able to pay players any amount of money. So let's start by going over here, and I'm going to make a little NPC that players can interact with. That's going to give them currency. And so I'll put him back here. We'll go ahead and name our rig. I'll call this guy Shady Seal. And I'm going to give him a proximity prompt. Actually, I'll just take one of the ATM hitboxes from back here, since these are already set up with proximity prompts. So we'll put this inside of our guy, change its name to hitbox, and now he's got a proximity prompt. And I'll just adjust the message here to Honey and Shady Seal. Which actually we can go ahead and remove the display type. And so now we have our NPC here. Let me put a script in server script service that's going to interact with this. I'll call this Shady Seal Controller. So we're going to start by getting our actual module, Banking Plus, that's going to allow us to interact with it. It's this module here, Currency Service. So to get the module, we're going to require server script service .bankingplus.currency service. And this is our main module that we can interact with. Now let's get a variable for our NPC. Shady Seal. We'll get a variable, which we're going to need variables for how much we're going to give from the NPC as well as the origin value. And I'll explain why we need those in a minute. So let's get a function for our prompt. When you attach this, it's going to provide the player who activated the proximity prompt, and then we'll just bind it down here. And so now this function is going to activate when players use our proximity prompt inside our NPC. And now what we're going to need to do is create a transfer table. And so this is one of the big things about sending currency with Banking Plus is you need to create a transfer data table. It's a custom type. And I'll show what that table looks like. So I'm going to make a table called package. Now inside of this package, we need to have 3 keys. We need to have the amount we're sending over, and they need to be typed exactly like this. And we'll just have this equal our amount variable. we need to have our origin, which will also be our origin variable, and the destination. Now, these two need to be strings, and this needs to be a number. So I'll write the types here. This needs to be a number. This needs to be string, string. Now, the destination is where this is going. Now, do you remember on the settings, right? We had our two variables here. We have wallet and balance. If we send balance, right, typed like this here, it's going to go to our player's bank account. If we type wallet, it's going to go to their wallet value up there. So in this case, we want it to go to their wallet. So we'll say wallet. This needs to be sent as a string. And we have our package now. So what we'll do is we'll now go to currency service. And we're going to call one of there's three main functions. Get account returns a player's bank account. You don't need to use initialize. And process transfer request is how we send players money. See, we have our custom data here. We need the account ID, or basically the player who owns the bank account, and a transfer data package, which is here. So we'll provide player.userid and package. Now calling this function activates, it works the same as a pcall. So it's going to return two separate variables, success and message. So we'll do success, comma, message equals currency service.process transfer request. If the request failed for whatever reason, the transfer failed, success is going to be false. If it went through, success is going to be true. So we could say if not success, then print message. And if it fails, message is going to be a string telling you why. It'll also usually put a warning in the chat saying, let's say the package wasn't set up properly, it's missing arguments, the origin is an illegal transfer, which I'll explain what that is in a second. And so this will tell you. Now the cool thing is if it goes through, it's going to change this to a formatted message. So let's say I'm doing a UI. When you run a transfer request, let's say for a shop, this message is going to be game friendly. So it could say insufficient funds if you're trying to make a purchase. If you're trying to, let's say, move funds and it goes through, this will be changed to transfer success. So you can actually display this on a text label. Now, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and print our message just so you guys can see. But this is about set up like it needs to be. So let's give this a test. We'll spawn our character over here by Shady Seal. And by the way, for this to work in Studio, I don't think I mentioned this, you need to have Studio access to API services enabled because this does use data store. So we're going to take some free money. Oops, I seem to have misspelt user ID. Capital I. There we go. Let's try this again. There we go. So you can see now we get a warning, illegal transfer request. It flagged my user ID. And it returned this message, error processing. Now the reason that it was flagged is because the origin, Shady Seal, we'll go back to our settings, is not a legit income source. The reason this is a thing is if exploiters, let's say you have a remote event that players can fire that's going to call this function. If exploiters call it and try to give themselves a bunch of free money, they're not only going to need to know the proper destination path, but they're going to have to provide a legit income source. So when you're making your shops, you're going to have to make sure to add these legit income sources. So let's add Shady Seal as a legit income source. You can even go so far as to make it to where when this fires, right, the illegal transfer request, you can actually kick the player that made it. But let's try this again. Now it's a legit income source. You can see we're able to get money from Shady Seal. Now Now here's one of the coolest features about this. Let's go to the ATMs over here. We go to our transaction log. We have a bunch of different transactions that have been saved in the data store. So these are transfers, these are from Shady Seal, these are received from wallet, sent, received from our balance, and these are more transfers. But it also gives us the date that these happened. See, these are older transfers that I practiced with. Let's say we want to deposit this into our account, all of our funds. We'll just deposit the full 1690. Now let's say for our example, we're going to be making a store where our players are purchasing something instead of getting money from Shady Seal. What we would do instead is have the same thing, but in this case, we're going to charge their balance. Or better yet, we'll charge their wallet. So we'll set the origin to wallet, and the destination we'll simply set to our company. So we'll say Shady Seals Legal Business Corp. Let's add some spaces here. So now though that we've changed the origin to wallet, instead of giving this amount to this origin, it's going to try to take it from it. So for instance now, if we try to go to Shady Seal with our $1,000 in our wallet, it's going to purchase 1,000. See, now we just lost 250. If we open up our ATM and look at our transaction log now though, we see that we have lost funds, minus 250, sent to Shady Seals Legal Business Corp from wallet. Now let's say we want to do this again, except this time we want to charge their account. Well, we could just say balance. And now if we hit play, we're going to get 250 charged to our bank account instead of our wallet. So we're getting our transaction finished, but our wallet stays the same. But instead we lost our primary balance. So that's about it with learning to use Banking Plus and installing it inside of your game. If you guys have any questions, head over to the contact page on my website, Definitely Not Seal. Provide your email address and the subject, and make sure to send in a ticket, and I'll get back to you guys with any questions you may have. Thank you for purchasing Banking Plus, and enjoy having a drag and drop economy system for your Roblox game.